Welcome to the ultimate compilation of our most mind-blowing facts, handpicked by you, our amazing viewers. From the weird to the wonderful, these are the moments you couldn't get enough of. Let us know in the comments which fact still blows your mind, or which one we missed and should add in the next edition.
So many questions. Why is the world spinning? Why is the moon keeping its orbit? Can rockets fly backwards? The facts you didn't know you needed. The Useless Show.
When making clothes, fabric has invisible lines running through it. But if you cut across those lines diagonally, it's called a bias. That angle gives clothes a soft, stretchy feeling that fits better. It's like cutting into magic. Suddenly, stiff cloth moves like liquid. The technique was famously popularized by fashion designers like Madeleine Vianney in the early 20th century. Canada and Greenland may seem far apart on a map, but guess what? They're actually just a short stretch apart, only about 16 miles. On a clear day, you could almost shout across the icy waters. It's wild how two massive, chilly lands can be such close neighbors, connected by more than just cold winds and curiosity. Every once in a blue lobster's lifetime, one is literally born blue. Not green, not brown, bright electric blue. It's super rare, like one in millions. Scientists think it's because of a special genetic twist. Finding one is like discovering a glowing jewel in the sea. And when it happens, people gather like it's an underwater miracle. Even though the name Haagen-Dazs sounds super fancy and European, it's actually made up by folks in New York. They wanted the ice cream to sound like it came from somewhere exotic, so they tossed in cool letters like A and Z's. Truth is, the name doesn't mean anything. On every Rolls-Royce, there's a little silver statue on the front that looks like a woman flying. That's called the Spirit of Ecstasy. It's not just decoration. It's a symbol of elegance and speed. She leans forward like she's about to soar, turning each car into something that doesn't just drive, but glides with drama. Believe it or not, the unicorn is the official national animal of Scotland. Not lions, not dragons, an imaginary horned horse, but it makes sense. Unicorns represent purity, strength, and wild beauty, which Scotland has in spades. It's like the whole country decided to believe in magic, and then made it official on paper. Before Europe became a super team called the European Union, it had a smaller club called the European Community. From way back in the old days until the early 90s, countries tried to stick together, share stuff, and avoid fighting. Think of it like a group project before it finally became official and got a cooler name. The first time Voice of America ever spoke to the world through radio waves was on a winter day, February 24, 1942. Right in the middle of World War II. And they didn't open with flair or fanfare. They simply said, "The news may be good, the news may be bad, but we'll tell you the truth." At a time when propaganda poisoned the air like smoke, those words felt like a gust of clean, honest wind. Mont Blanc rises so high, 4,808 meters, or over 15,000 feet. It looks like it's trying to shake hands with the sky. Perched between France and Italy, it's the tallest point in all of continental Europe. Wrapped in snow and kissed by clouds, it's a sacred playground for climbers. In Hawaii's quiet waters, a white memorial floats above the wreck of the USS Arizona, still resting where it sank on December 7, 1941. That day, Japanese forces launched a surprise attack on Pearl Harbor, and the Arizona took a direct hit. Over 1,100 sailors and Marines were lost in moments. Today, that peaceful white span isn't just a structure, it's a grave for heroes. Marcus Allen was the first player in history to win a Heisman Trophy, a Super Bowl, and be named NFL MVP. He retired with over 12,000 rushing yards and held the record for most rushing touchdowns at the time, 123. His 74-yard touchdown run in Super Bowl XVIII remains one of the game's most iconic moments. There was a queen named Catherine the Great, Empress of Russia who loved collecting art so much, her collection turned into one of the largest museums in the entire world. What started as her personal treasure chest became the State Hermitage Museum in Russia, where every room is like a page from the most beautiful, colorful storybook ever imagined. In Osaka, Japan, the Umeda Hankyu building stands tall, with 41 floors, and was completed in 2012. Located in the bustling Umeda Commercial District, it serves as the headquarters for Hankyu Hanshin Holdings. One of its standout features is its massive elevators, some of the largest in Japan, each capable of carrying up to 80 passengers at a time. Explorer 1, the first satellite the United States launched, lifted off on January 31, 1958, during the early space race. The craft measured about 6 feet long, roughly 1 8/10 meters, and weighed nearly 31 kilograms, similar to a small refrigerator. Monaco is a small, independent country on the Mediterranean coast, bordered by France. Its entire coastline stretches just about 4.1 kilometers, or roughly 2.5 miles. The total land area is only around 2 square kilometers, making it the second smallest country in the world. Despite its size, it's known for luxury tourism, casinos, and the Monaco Grand Prix. Before stepping into politics, Ronald Reagan spent years on television. From 1954 to 1962, he hosted the General Electric Theater, a weekly TV anthology series. As part of his role, he also toured GE plants, delivering speeches and mingling with workers. These years sharpened his public speaking and quietly launched his path toward the presidency. The Wonder Wheel at Coney Island has been spinning since 1920, making it over a century old. Standing 150 feet tall and weighing around 200 tons, it holds 24 passenger cars, 16 of which swing along a curved track. Each car seats 6, so up to 144 people can ride at once. The lion's mane jellyfish is one of the longest animals ever recorded, with tentacles that once stretched 160 feet, longer than a blue whale. Found in cold northern waters, it stings and stuns prey with its long trailing arms. It's part creature, part underwater power strip. Honestly, if hair could kill, this jellyfish would be Rapunzel's worst nightmare. In ancient Rome, vulgar wasn't an insult. It was just how everyday people talked. While poets and scholars scribbled in polished Latin, farmers, soldiers, and market vendors spoke vulgar Latin, the raw, street-level version. It wasn't elegant, but it was alive. And here's the twist. That unrefined language eventually evolved into modern Spanish, French, Italian, and more. The Flatiron Building in New York City doesn't just look unusual. It's shaped like a giant wedge, almost like a slice of pizza standing on its crust. Completed in 1902, it was one of the city's first skyscrapers. Its triangular design made it a marvel of engineering at the time, and today, it's a favorite photo stop for visitors and locals alike. You know that catchy Kit Kat song, "Give Me a Break"? That jingle came from a group of creative minds in the 80s working at an ad agency. They mixed a simple tune with a sweet message and created a commercial so powerful, people still sing it today. It's stuck in our heads like chocolate on fingers. There's a tiny fish called the Siamese fighting fish that has a seriously bad temper. If it sees its own reflection in a mirror, it thinks it's an enemy and starts flaring its fins and charging. It's like a warrior in fish form, small, sparkly, and ready to battle even itself. Every few years, the Pacific Ocean throws a tantrum called El Nino. It messes with the weather. Some places flood, others dry up, and everything feels out of balance. It's like the ocean is flipping the world's thermostat. People can't stop it, only watch and prepare. Nature reminds us who's really in charge when it decides to get moody. Passover is a Jewish festival where, for 8 days, people avoid eating anything with leavened bread. No fluffy loaves, no soft rolls. It's a powerful reminder of when their ancestors had to leave Egypt so quickly they didn't have time to let their bread rise. So now they eat flat bread called matzah and remember freedom's price. On a giant mountain called Mount Shasta, snow once fell so heavily during one storm that it piled up taller than a 4-story building. Imagine walking outside and the snow being higher than your house. That storm dumped more snow in one blast than most places see in a year. Nature knows how to flex its muscles. Long ago at a place called DuPont, scientists created a strange bendy material called neoprene. It looked like rubber, but wasn't natural. They made it from chemicals, and suddenly, people had wetsuits, laptop sleeves, and even medical gear that didn't tear or rot. That soft, stretchy stuff changed how we live, and it started in a lab. In the hills of Uruguay, the land rises up in sharp, jagged ridges they call Cuchilla Grande. That name means big knife, and one look makes it obvious why. These rocky lines slice across the earth like frozen waves. Farmers, travelers, and dreamers all look up at those hills and feel like they're walking beside ancient giants. In the tiny state of Rhode Island, the striped base swims like it owns the place, and honestly, it kinda does, with racing stripes down its sides and a fighting spirit that gives anglers sore arms. It's no surprise it's the official state fish. Around here, catching one isn't just sport. It's bragging rights, dinner, and a fishtail all in one. There was a powerful queen named Blanche of Castile who ruled France while her son, King Louis, left for the Crusades. She wasn't just filling in. She took charge, made decisions, and kept the kingdom from falling apart. She combined maternal care with political acumen, protecting her son's interests and the realm's stability. In her 1969 book On Death and Dying, psychiatrist Elizabeth Kubler-Ross introduced the idea that grief often moves through 5 stages: denial, anger, bargaining, depression, and acceptance. It wasn't meant as a strict rule, but a way to understand the emotional waves people face after a loss. Her work helped shape how the world talks about mourning and healing. James Bone Crusher Smith wasn't just a powerhouse in the boxing ring. He also had a sharp mind outside of it. While climbing his way to become a heavyweight champion, he earned a degree in business from Alcorn State University. At a time when few boxers had college degrees, Bone Crusher showed you could bring both brains and brute force to the fight. A docket sounds like something from a wizard's book, but in courtrooms is actually just a fancy word for a list. It shows which cases are up next and who's involved. Think of it like a movie theater lineup, except instead of popcorn and action flicks, it's lawyers, judges, and stories that could change people's lives forever. In ancient Greece, there was a queen named Clytemnestra, whose story is a tangled mess of love, betrayal, and murder. Some say she killed her husband Agamemnon. Others say she didn't. Depending on whether the storyteller was Homer or Aeschylus, the ending changed. It's one of those old myths where nobody really knows who's the villain. The Pony Express didn't last very long, just under 2 years. But during that time, it carried mail across rough land, bad weather, and real danger. Riders switched horses often and rode day and night without stopping. It was one of the fastest ways to send messages back then, until the telegraph came along and replaced it. Dennis Wilson from the Beach Boys wasn't just singing about surfing, he was actually out there doing it. While the rest of the band sang the vibe, Dennis lived it. He paddled into waves, wiped out, and got sunburned like a real surfer. His salty hair and tanned skin weren't costumes. They were proof of the life he loved. If even one fact twisted your perspective, you're exactly who this channel is made for. Like, comment, subscribe, and stay ahead of the curve. During the Civil War, the very first Union Army was called the Army of the Potomac. These soldiers were the main force fighting in the East. They marched, camped, and battled through some of the bloodiest chapters of American history. Through thick fog and heavy losses, they carried the hopes of a divided country on their tired shoulders. There's a medal called the Purple Heart, and right in the center of it is the face of George Washington. It's not just shiny metal, it's given to soldiers who were wounded or killed in action. The medal was established in 1932 to honor George Washington's legacy. Pico de Orizaba is the highest volcanic mountain in North America and the third highest peak on the continent overall. Located on the border between the Mexican states of Puebla and Veracruz, it stands at 5,636 meters, about 18,491 feet above sea level. Though dormant, it's still classified as a potentially active stratovolcano. Before being president, Woodrow Wilson was deep into books and ideas. He studied, taught, and eventually became the first U.S. president to earn a Ph.D. That means he didn't just want power, he wanted knowledge. He treated ideas like weapons, believing smart leaders made strong nations. Wilson earned a Ph.D. in political science and history from Johns Hopkins University in 1886. You know when your clothes mysteriously get little holes in them? It's not full-grown moths doing that. It's actually their babies. Those tiny, hungry larvae chew through your favorite shirt like it's a midnight snack. So if your sweater looks like it fought a battle and lost, blame those baby moths, not their fluttery parents. There was this guy named Washington Roebling who became the boss of building the Brooklyn Bridge. The cool part? His dad, John Roebling, had designed the whole thing. But when his dad passed away, Washington didn't give up. He kept going, turning his father's dream into a giant bridge that still stands strong today, connecting two worlds. In Springfield, Illinois, there's a little place called the Cozy Dog Drive-In. And that's where the corn dog was born. Someone had the genius idea to stick a hot dog on a stick, dip it in batter, and fry it till it was golden. It wasn't just a snack. It was the crunchy start of fair food history. Back in the late 50s and early 60s, people couldn't stop watching cowboys. Two Western shows, Gunsmoke and Wagon Train, were the most watched things on TV. Cowboys, horses, and dusty towns filled the screen. Families gathered around the television like it was a glowing campfire, listening to stories of justice, outlaws, and dusty boots under wide skies. In the European Union, voting power is based on a system called qualified majority voting, which weighs both a country's population and the number of member states in agreement. Germany and France currently hold the most influence due to their large populations. Italy also has significant voting weight. However, the United Kingdom is no longer part of the EU. It officially left on January 2020. If you land on a utility space in Monopoly and it's owned by someone, your rent depends on how much you roll. With one utility, you owe 4 times your roll. But if they own both, boom, 10 times the amount. That's how water and electricity can shock your wallet faster than Boardwalk with a hotel. Before digital cameras, photographers used film. To see all their shots from one roll, they laid out something called a proof sheet. It showed tiny versions of each picture, so they could pick the best one to enlarge. It was like a contact sheet of memories. Little photo soldiers waiting to see who gets picked for glory. Nathan Pritikin believed in something simple. Eat clean, and you might just save your heart. He didn't just say it, he lived it. He championed a low-fat, low-cholesterol diet so fiercely, people wrote a book about him called The Man Who Healed America's Heart. His ideas helped a nation rethink what went on their plates. Alfred Dreyfus was a French officer wrongly blamed for spying. The fact that he was Jewish made things even worse. He was shamed, jailed, and called a traitor. But years later, the truth came out. He was innocent. That one case shook all of Europe and shouted out how dangerous lies and prejudice can be. The human stomach is surprisingly stretchy, but at its relaxed size, it holds about a quart. That's the same as a big carton of milk. It doesn't look like much, but it expands when you eat. So next time you're stuffed after dinner, remember, you just maxed out your stomach's stretchy little pouch. Space Mountain isn't just one ride. It's a series of adventures across different Disney parks. Since its launch in the 70s, it's had 5 unique versions, each with different tracks, sounds, and lights. From sharp turns to starry tunnels, every version makes riders feel like they've been shot into space with nothing but screams and stardust. Inside your leg is a bone, called the fibula. It's skinny and often overlooked, but it plays a big role in balance. The name comes from Latin and means clasp, like a little fastener holding things together. It may not carry the weight like your big shin bone, but it's quietly keeping you on your feet. In ancient Japan, there was a brutal weapon called a kanabo. It looked like a giant club covered in metal knobs. Samurai warriors used it to crush armor and shatter defenses. One swing could end a battle. It wasn't elegant or graceful. It was raw force in wood and steel, made to turn power into victory. Lincoln is the capital of Nebraska and was named after Abraham Lincoln, the 16th President of the United States. Jefferson City is the capital of Missouri, named after Thomas Jefferson, the 3rd President. Madison is the capital of Wisconsin and takes its name from James Madison, the 4th President. All three cities reflect presidential history through their names. During the English Civil War and the interregnum period from 1642 to 1660, all public theaters in England were officially closed by the Puritan-led government. The ban remained in place until 1660, when the monarchy was restored and theaters were allowed to reopen. At the 1996 Academy Awards, Emma Thompson won the Oscar for Best Adapted Screenplay for Sense and Sensibility. She was also nominated for Best Actress for her role in the same film, making her one of the few individuals recognized for both writing and acting in a single year. The Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, the CDC, is part of the Department of Health and Human Services. They're the team that handles outbreaks, spreads awareness, and keeps an eye on anything that might threaten public health. They're like medical detectives, working behind the scenes to protect millions, armed with data instead of badges. The city of Nashville, Tennessee, wasn't just named at random. It was named after a general called Francis Nash, who fought during the Revolutionary War. Funny twist? He was also an ancestor of the famous poet Ogden Nash. So music and poetry flow in Nashville's bloodline. Long before space telescopes became real, a smart guy named Lyman Spitzer dreamed one up. In the 1940s, he wrote about placing a telescope far above Earth's clouds, where it could see clearly into space. His idea came more than a decade before satellites even existed. Without him, we might never have met Hubble. Josephine Cochrane was tired of washing dishes, so she built a machine in her shed, with the help of a mechanic named George Butters, that would change everything. Her invention became the first successful dishwasher. It didn't just save time, it gave freedom to millions of hands. From backyard tinkering to kitchen revolution, her legacy sparkles with every plate. Angelo Siciliano wanted to be strong, like really strong. He trained, built his body up, and transformed into Charles Atlas, the man people once called the most perfectly developed human alive. His name became legend in comic books and ads, helping skinny kids everywhere dream of turning muscles into armor and weakness into unbeatable power. Babe Didrikson Zaharais didn't just win medals, she rewrote what people thought women could do in sports. She earned gold in track and field at the Olympics, then switched over to golf and dominated there too. Reporters named her best female athlete 6 different times. She didn't just play, she crushed boundaries and left records trembling behind her. In Arizona, there's a twist in land you wouldn't expect. The Navajo Indian Reservation is massive, and right in the middle of it, like a small island, sits the reservation of another tribe, the Hopi. It's like one nation wrapped inside another, a quiet reminder of how deep history winds through the desert. The writer J.M. Barrie once said that life is a long lesson in humility. He's the same guy who gave the world Peter Pan, a boy who never wanted to grow up. Maybe Barrie believed that growing up wasn't just about age, but about learning how small we really are in a giant, surprising world. Before it was called Better Homes and Gardens, the magazine was known as Fruit, Garden, and Home. That sounds like a shopping list, but it slowly grew from a cozy household guide into a massive lifestyle brand. What began with apples and flowers bloomed into one of the most loved home magazines in America. There's a tiny part at the base of your brain called the hypothalamus. Sounds complicated, right? But its job is to control the pituitary gland, known as the body's master gland. That tiny duo is like the control center for hormones, helping your body grow, sleep, and feel. They're the brains behind the scenes magic makers. In The Wizard of Oz, the wizard isn't just called Oz. He has a ridiculously long name. Oscar Zoroaster, Fadrig, Isaac Norman Henkel, Emmanuel Ambroise Diggs. Seriously, it's like his parents wanted to use the whole alphabet. Thankfully, everyone stuck with just Oz. The phrase hoi polloi comes from Greek and means the common people, or the masses. But lots of folks get it wrong and use it to mean fancy or high class. Ironically, misusing that word kind of proves the point. It shows just how tangled language can get when we try to sound smarter than we are. Spam is a canned, pre-cooked meat product introduced by Hormel in 1937. Decades later, the word spam started being used for unwanted emails thanks to a Monty Python sketch that repeated the word endlessly. Hormel couldn't stop the slang, so they leaned into it, writing spam in all capital letters to help people tell the difference between their product and digital junk mail. Astronomers don't just have one way to measure a year. There are solar years, lunar years, equinoctial years, and sidereal years. Each one tracks time in a slightly different way, depending on the Earth, moon, stars, or seasons. Turns out, even time likes to play dress-up and wear different names, depending on who's watching the sky. In Forrest Gump, Tom Hanks sat on a little park bench telling his life story, and that bench became legendary. It was located in Chippewa Square in Savannah, Georgia. Tourists came from everywhere to sit where Forrest did, hoping maybe, just maybe, life really is like a box of chocolates and you never know what's coming next. Jethro Tull wasn't just the name of a rock band. It was also a real person. He lived in the 1700s and helped change farming forever by perfecting something called the seed drill. That machine planted seeds in neat rows instead of scattering them. Tull made farming smarter, turning dirt and seeds into science. There's a swimming pool under the White House press briefing room. It was built for President Franklin D. Roosevelt, who used it for therapy. Later, they covered it up with floors and walls to make space for reporters and cameras. But that little pool still hides below, a quiet ripple beneath presidential headlines. The Harlem Globetrotters sound like they were born in Harlem, but they actually came from Chicago. And they didn't even play in Harlem until the late 60s. Still, they took that name and bounced into basketball history, spinning balls, pulling pranks, and dazzling fans with moves that felt more like magic than sports. When jellyfish get together, it's not called a group or a swarm. It's called a smack. Yep, a smack of jellyfish. Sounds like something out of a comic book, and if you've ever been stung by one, you know the name fits. It's a soft, wobbly word that somehow still packs a sting. The very first purpose-built gas station was built in St. Louis, Missouri, back in the early 1900s. Before that, gasoline was something you might buy at a pharmacy, like soap or candy. But when people started driving cars more, they needed a place just for fuel. That little station pumped the future full of power. You're not here by accident. The fact you made it this far? That's rare. Don't just vanish. Tap subscribe and leave a trace in the comments. A fancy word for baby stroller is perambulator, or pram for short. It was invented in the 1700s by a guy named William Kent for the kids of the Duke of Devonshire. Picture a royal baby being wheeled around like a tiny king. It wasn't just transportation, it was baby luxury on wheels. In Salt Lake City, there's a place called Temple Square, and it's packed with stunning buildings. There's the Salt Lake Temple, the Tabernacle, the Assembly Hall, and even a statue called the Seagull Monument. Temple Square is a prominent 10-acre complex. Japan built a suspension bridge so long it could wrap around the Earth more than 7 times if you laid out its cables end to end. That's the Akashi Kaikyo Bridge. It stretches across water like a giant metal snake, connecting cities and holding strong against earthquakes. The bridge connects the city of Kobe on the Japanese mainland to Awaji Island, spanning the Akashi Strait. Back in the day, kids across America learned to read using the Dick and Jane books. These simple, friendly stories were created by William Gray and Zerna Sharp. Generations of students met their first words through these pages, one sentence at a time. A Canadian doctor and a soldier named John McCrae wrote a poem called In Flanders Fields during World War I. It talked about red poppies growing between graves. The words were soft but powerful, making readers stop and feel the weight of war. That poem became a symbol of remembrance, and poppies still bloom for the fallen today. The northernmost point of the South American continent is Punta Galinas, located on the Guajira Peninsula in northern Colombia. It marks the top edge of the continent, jutting into the Caribbean Sea. Remote and windswept, the area is part of indigenous Wayuu territory and is known for its desert landscapes, sand dunes, and strong cultural traditions. The black box in an airplane, the one that records everything, isn't actually black. It's bright orange. That color makes it easier to find in wreckage. So the thing with the darkest name is actually the brightest tool in a crisis. Funny how the most important stuff often hides behind a misleading name. Before anyone ever picked up a phone, people were already faxing messages between London and Paris. Yup, 11 years before the telephone was even invented, the world saw its first commercial telefax system. Imagine sending pictures and documents across borders while most people were still writing letters by candlelight. That's old-school tech with next-level imagination. The Rocky Mountain columbine isn't just a flower. It's a fluttery burst of purple and white that represents all of Colorado. It grows high in the mountains like a tiny star resting on the ground. With its graceful petals and soft colors, it's a natural crown for a state built from sky-touching peaks and wild open spaces. At the center of the Taj Mahal, under that giant white dome that glows in the moonlight, are two people, Mumtaz Mahal and Shah Jahan. He built the entire thing to honor her after she passed away. Mumtaz Mahal died in 1631 during childbirth, and Shah Jahan commissioned the Taj Mahal as a mausoleum to honor her memory. Cashews aren't really nuts. They're seeds, and their shells are trouble. That outer shell is toxic, so people have to remove it carefully before you ever get to snack on one. It's like nature wrapped this tasty treat in armor that stings, daring anyone to unlock the buttery treasure hidden inside. There was a day in music history that no one has ever repeated. On April 4th of 1964, the Beatles held every one of the top 5 spots on the Billboard pop charts. All 5. It was like the world hit played on nothing but their music. For a moment, they didn't just rule the charts. They were the charts. There came a year when the world built more cars than ever before. Over 60 million of them. That means about 165,000 brand new cars rolled out every single day. Streets filled up, factories buzzed, and it felt like the whole world was driving into the future. Tires spinning and engines roaring. Gore Verbinski, the director behind Swashbuckling Pirates and a Lizard Named Rango, is one of the biggest earners in movie history. He's best known for the first 3 Pirates of the Caribbean movies and even won an Oscar for an animated tale. Verbinski started as a musician before moving into directing commercials and then feature films. Most state flags are pretty plain, but Washington decided to go bold. It's the only one that includes the image of a United States president, George Washington himself. The flag was designed by the Daughters of the American Revolution in 1914 and officially adopted on March 5, 1923. The Andean condor is one of the largest flying birds in the world, with a wingspan that can reach up to 3 meters or about 10 feet. It appears on the coats of arms of Colombia, Ecuador, Bolivia, and Chile, symbolizing power, freedom, and the spirit of the Andes. Teddy Roosevelt, one of the most rugged presidents ever, once tried to take "In God We Trust" off American money, but not because he was against faith. He thought putting God's name on something like money was disrespectful. For him, cash wasn't holy enough to carry sacred words. That's devotion with a sharp sense of honor. Several iconic musicians died at the age of 27, a pattern often referred to as the 27 Club. Janis Joplin died in 1970 from a drug overdose. Jimi Hendrix also died in 1970 from asphyxiation related to drug use. Jim Morrison died in 1971 of heart failure under unclear circumstances. Kurt Cobain died in 1994 by suicide. William McGeer Tweed ran New York politics with an iron fist and a fat wallet. But people didn't call him that. They called him Boss. Through Tammany Hall, he controlled votes, money, and power like a king behind the curtain. He wasn't just a man. He was a machine, greased by corruption and fear. Before it was called table tennis, the game we now know as ping pong had a weird name. Gossamer. That was back in the late 1800s. Players bounced tiny balls across dinner tables, and the sound, ping, then pong, eventually gave the game a new name. But gossamer? That sounds more like a wizard's spell than a sport. In ancient China, the Manchu dynasty made men wear a strange hairstyle called the queue. It looked like a long braided ponytail at the back, with the front of the head shaved. It wasn't just fashion. It was a symbol of loyalty to the emperor. Hair became politics, and scissors could mean rebellion. You know those villains in James Bond movies always causing trouble? Some of them are part of a shadowy group called Spectre. That name isn't random. It stands for Special Executive for Counterintelligence, Terrorism, Revenge, and Extortion. Basically, if it's evil, they're into it. They're not just bad guys. They're organized bad guys with business cards. Bobby Hatfield and Bill Medley had voices that made hearts melt. Together, they became the Righteous Brothers. Their songs weren't just music. They were deep, soulful waves. When random ads pop up during your messaging chats, it's not just spam, it's called spim. That's short for spam over instant messaging. It's like the digital version of an uninvited guest crashing your party just to hand you a flyer. When the Northwest Territory was split up, Ohio was the first to rise from its pieces. It became a state in the early 1800s, stepping into the spotlight as the new kid on the American block. From wild frontier land to statehood, Ohio helped kick off the next big chapter of the country's expansion. When the Titanic sank, many lives were lost, but none richer than John Jacob Astor IV. He was one of the wealthiest men in the world at the time, but money couldn't save him. In that icy ocean, class didn't matter. His story reminds us that even fortunes can sink when tragedy strikes. Each year on Independence Day, Americans consume over 150 million hot dogs. That's enough to stretch from Washington, D.C. to Los Angeles more than 5 times. The tradition has become a staple of 4th of July celebrations across the country, combining food, festivity, and national pride in one classic, mustard-covered bite. Dr. Kay Scarpetta is a fictional forensic pathologist created by author Patricia Cornwell, and she's the central figure in a series of 23 crime novels. Introduced in the 1990s post-mortem, Scarpetta uses forensic science and investigative skills to solve complex murder cases. The series helped popularize forensic crime fiction. Herb Kahn looked at the moody young poets of the 50s and gave them a nickname, beatniks. He mashed beat culture with the Russian word Sputnik, and suddenly these freethinkers had a label. The name stuck, and the beatnik image, berets, jazz, and deep thoughts became a whole vibe that shaped culture and poetry in smoky coffee shops everywhere. A weaver, written as WB, might sound like a new dance move, but it's actually a scientific unit. It measures magnetic flux, which is basically how much magnetic field is flowing through something. If magnets had a secret language, this would be their measuring stick. It's like telling the strength of invisible magical threads. In 1927, Charles Lindbergh became the very first person named Man of the Year by Time magazine. He'd just flown across the Atlantic Ocean all by himself, which was unthinkable back then. One guy, one plane, one enormous ocean. That flight turned him into a hero and gave him a place in the sky. Betty White didn't just make people laugh, she made history. Starting in the early 50s, she collected Emmy nominations like they were candy. Over her career, she got more than 20 nominations and won several. In the early 1900s, a U.S. Surgeon General named Walter Wyman helped create a hospital in Hawaii specifically for people with leprosy. It was a bold move to treat a disease that scared many, and he showed that science should never turn its back on the sick. It was medicine with a heart. The original Ferris wheel was a giant wonder built for the Chicago World's Fair. It was so massive, it could carry more than 2,000 people at once. It stood about 264 feet, 80 meters tall, making it the tallest attraction of its time. The wheel had 36 cars, each capable of holding up to 60 people, allowing it to carry over 2,000 passengers at once. Truly a spinning city in the sky. Long John Silver's didn't start near the ocean. It began in Lexington, Kentucky, a landlocked place far from the sea. But people there still loved fried fish and hush puppies. That one little store grew into over 1,000 seafood spots. The name sounded like a pirate, and the food made you feel like a treasure hunter. Salome, a mysterious dancer from an ancient story, once performed the Dance of the Seven Veils. That tale inspired an Oscar Wilde play and even an opera by Richard Strauss. Her swirling, hypnotic moves became famous, mixing beauty with danger. It was a dance that spoke without words, and every step carried a secret. King James V of Scotland wore a crown before he could even walk. He became king when he wasn't even 2 years old. Imagine still needing help to eat while also ruling a kingdom. He had grown-ups running the show until he was older, but technically the royal throne had some baby shoes under it. Jerry Rice holds the record for the most receiving yards in NFL history, finishing his career with 22,895 yards. Widely regarded as the greatest wide receiver of all time, he played primarily for the San Francisco 49ers. His precise route running, work ethic, and consistency set a standard few have matched, making his record some of the toughest to beat in football history. A heptagon is a shape with 7 sides and 7 angles. It's not as famous as a triangle or a square, but it still has its own special place in geometry. If you were building a superhero base and wanted it to stand out, a heptagon floor plan would definitely do the trick. Michael Bublé croons with charm and sells albums by the millions, but when it comes to the pop charts in the U.S., he has had only one major hit on the U.S. pop charts, his cover of Haven't Met You Yet. Still, his smooth voice fills Christmas playlists and wedding dances. Sometimes success isn't measured by charts. It's measured by how many hearts your songs sneak into. The word hatha comes from Sanskrit and literally means force yoga. It's the kind of yoga that focuses on physical effort and body control. Imagine holding poses that stretch your body and calm your brain. Nelson Rockefeller kept winning elections in New York, 4 times to be exact. He was governor for over a decade and played a huge role in state politics. He was the kind of guy who shook hands, made speeches, and built up cities. His last name already echoed power, and he made sure it stayed loud. The gunfight at the OK Corral was one of the fastest showdowns in history. Cowboys squared off, guns blazed, and within 30 seconds, it was over. That half-minute became the stuff of legends. Books, movies, and cowboy myths all sprouted from that dusty little moment in Tombstone, Arizona. The Wild West didn't need much time to get wild. In Arabic, the word sheikh means old man. But it's more than just age. It's respect. A sheikh is the head of a tribe or village, someone who leads with wisdom. They're like village elders, except with authority woven into every word. In their world, gray hair isn't just age, it's a crown. The Big 4 film schools aren't in Hollywood exactly, but they're close. 2 are in Los Angeles, USC and UCLA. The other 2 are in New York, NYU and Columbia. These schools train directors, writers, and movie magicians. If film was a kingdom, these places would be the castles where screen dreams are forged. Francesco Scavullo didn't just take photos. He captured what glamour looked like for decades. He's the guy who created the Cosmo Girl look, with bold eyes, shiny lips, and confidence for miles. His camera didn't just flash. It made fashion freeze in time, framing beauty as something fierce, fearless, and forever stylish. Eyjafjallajökull is a volcano in Iceland that erupted in 2010, releasing a massive ash cloud that disrupted air travel across Europe for several days. The eruption grounded thousands of flights due to safety concerns. Charles Ebbets loved baseball so much he sold half of his team shares just to build Ebbets Field. That stadium became home to the Brooklyn Dodgers, echoing with cheers, chants, and the sound of bat meeting ball. His dream became bricks and benches. Sometimes, to build something unforgettable, you have to bet it all. You've probably seen those numbers at the end of your address, right? That ZIP code? Well, ZIP stands for Zone Improvement Plan. It's not just a number. It's a way to move mail faster. Elvis Presley once got a chance to perform at the Grand Ole Opry, the heart of country music. He booked an entire month, but after just one show, they kicked him out. They didn't get his wild style. But the king wasn't fazed. He took his music somewhere else and ended up changing the world instead. If you've ever seen the tiniest drop of liquid fall from a spoon, that drop is just 1/60th of a teaspoon. It's so small, you'd need 60 to fill up one spoon. But even something that tiny can change a recipe or add the perfect twist to a magic potion. The fizzy word seltzer actually comes from a little German town called Niederselters. People there had natural mineral springs, and the sparkling water that bubbled up became so popular, they named the whole fizzy idea after the place. So next time you sip seltzer, you're really tasting a tiny village's sparkling claim to fame. Lord Hastings was one of the earliest high-profile executions inside the Tower of London, but he was not the first ever. William Hastings, 1st Baron Hastings, was beheaded without trial on June 13, 1483, on Tower Green by order of Richard, Duke of Gloucester, who later became Richard III. In space talk, the word magnitude means how bright something looks in the sky. The lower the number, the brighter the light. The moon glows at -12.6, and the sun dazzles at -26.7. So stars may sparkle, but those two light up the sky like cosmic flashlights on full beam. The Danish royal family has been ruling for over 1,000 years. That makes it the oldest monarchy still going strong in all of Europe. Crowns, castles, and royal traditions have passed through generations like stories whispered through centuries. Its origins trace back over 1,000 years, with the first historically recognized king, Gorm the Old, reigning in the early 10th century. That X in Xmas isn't trying to erase Christ. It actually comes from the Greek letter chi, which was used as a symbol for Christ hundreds of years ago. So when people shorten Christmas that way, they're not disrespecting it. They're using ancient code, like writing a message in history's secret handwriting. The phrase, "see you next Wednesday," hides like an Easter egg in almost everything director John Landis made, including the music video for Thriller. It was the name of a fake script he wrote as a teen, and he kept sneaking it into his movies. It's like his personal wink to anyone paying close attention. Daniel Webster was a major political figure in the 19th century, serving as a U.S. Senator, Secretary of State, and one of the most powerful orators of his time. He did turn down the vice presidency twice, and in a strange twist, both presidents who offered him the role later died in office, meaning he unknowingly passed on a direct path to the presidency. Australia is home to some of the world's deadliest spiders, but believe it or not, no one had died from a spider bite there for 37 years, until a young man passed away in 2016. Nature can be peaceful for decades, but sometimes it taps you on the shoulder with a reminder of its hidden power. William Mitchell wasn't just a food chemist. He was a candy wizard. He invented Tang and the exploding candy pop rocks. Over his career, he grabbed 70 patents. Every time you hear a fizzy crackle or taste space dust on your tongue, that's Mitchell's mad food science, working its sweet, strange magic. Grant Wood painted one of America's most famous artworks, American Gothic, the one with the farmer holding a pitchfork. But before that, he was just a kid who loved crayons. He even won a Crayola coloring contest. That means even great artists started with scribbles, coloring inside, and definitely outside the lines. When it comes to oil, The biggest foreign supplier to the United States isn't some distant desert. It's Canada. That's right. More oil flows across that chilly northern border than from anywhere else. They don't just share snow and hockey. They're quietly powering the engines of millions of cars driving down American highways. The star-nosed mole is one of the weirdest animals alive. Its nose has 22 pink, finger-like feelers that twitch and wiggle like alien antennas. It uses them to see underground in total darkness. It may look like a creature from a cartoon, but that mole is a high-speed burrower with super senses on its face. John Glenn became the first American to orbit the Earth in 1962 aboard Friendship 7. After that groundbreaking mission, he served 4 full terms as a United States Senator from Ohio. He chose not to seek re-election in 1998 and retired in early 1999. He passed away in 2016, nearly 17 years after ending his political career. In gym talk, work in doesn't mean punching a clock. It means sharing a machine. One person does their set, then hops off so the next person can take their turn. It's like a fitness version of passing the basketball. You don't hog the weights. You share the burn. In the Hebrew Bible, the Book of Lamentations is a collection of 5 powerful poems mourning the fall of Jerusalem. The words are raw and heavy, full of sorrow and beauty. It's not just ancient writing. It's the heart of a city crying out through lines that still echo across thousands of years. There's a myth from ancient Greece where a woman named Arachne challenged the goddess Athena in a weaving contest. Arachne lost, of course, and Athena turned her into a spider so she could keep spinning forever. That's how the Greeks explained spiders. So next time you see a web, remember, it's ancient punishment in motion. Tai Chi might look like slow dancing, but it's a graceful martial art filled with poetic moves. 2 of the coolest names are White Crane Spreads Wings and Step Back and Repulse Monkey. They sound like kung fu ballet and feel like meditation in motion, gentle, balanced, and surprisingly powerful. In the rain-soaked forests of Central Africa lives a weird but fascinating animal called the giant otter shrew. It doesn't look like a shrew or an otter, really, but it is the world's largest insectivore. That means it munches more bugs than any other bug eater its size. It's like a vacuum cleaner with whiskers and claws. Way down in southern Mexico, there's a state called Oaxaca that's unlike any other. More than half of all the country's indigenous people live there. It's filled with ancient languages, handmade crafts, and traditions that go back thousands of years. It's a living museum where culture dances through every market and mountain. Queen Elizabeth II became queen on February 6, 1952, following the death of her father, King George VI. At the time, she was in Kenya on a royal tour, not in England. One moment she was a princess abroad, and the next she was monarch of the United Kingdom. The crown awaited her return home. When the Secret Service talked about President Jimmy Carter over radios, they didn't say his name. They used the word Deacon. That was his secret code name. Every president gets one. Carter's nickname matched his calm, thoughtful personality. It made him sound less like a commander and more like someone you'd trust to quietly fix the world. Alaska looks like it's just floating out there, but it touches Canada too. It shares its border with 2 Canadian regions, British Columbia and the Yukon Territory. That makes it one of the few U.S. states connected more to wilderness than cities. Snow, silence, and wild animals don't care where one country ends and the next begins. There was an inventor named Ralph Teeter who couldn't see. He was completely blind, but he still figured out how to make something millions of drivers now use every day. Cruise control. He couldn't see the road, but he made cars smarter. That's how vision isn't always about eyes. It's about seeing the world in your mind. Patrick Ewing wasn't always an NBA legend. Before joining the pros, he led Georgetown University to the national championship game 3 times. He won it all in the year 1984. He was like a college basketball superhero, blocking shots, scoring points, and giving fans someone to believe in. He made every court feel like destiny. In the early 90s, a woman named Tansu Siller did something no one in Turkey had done before. She became the nation's first female prime minister. In a world dominated by male leaders, she rose to the top, guiding a country and breaking old traditions with every confident step she took into history. Only 3 players in the history of Major League Baseball have ever hit over 700 home runs. Babe Ruth did it first. Then Hank Aaron chased him down. And finally, Barry Bonds knocked them all out of the top spot. Swing after swing, they turned baseball into a fireworks show of power. In the early 1400s, Scotland got something it had been fighting for: freedom. England finally signed a treaty saying Robert the Bruce was the rightful king of the Scots. That paper didn't just end a war, it crowned a hero. Robert wasn't just a man with a sword. He was a symbol for every voice shouting to be free. On top of a windy hill in Scotland called Dunsinane sits the ruins of Macbeth's castle. It's the same Macbeth who inspired Shakespeare's dark and haunting play. Stones crumble now, but back then, those walls echoed with secrets, ambition, and fate. Left-handed catchers in baseball are super rare, like unicorns wearing mitts. Since the early 1900s, fewer than 10 have ever played in the big leagues. It's not because they're bad, just because the game is set up in a way that favors right-handers. So when a lefty does it, that's pure baseball rebellion. Ringo Starr, born on July 7, 1940, was the quiet pulse behind the Beatles' storm. He was the oldest of the Fab Four, the one who sat behind the drums while the world screamed for the others. Imagine kicking off a show that would become legendary, and your first guest is Hollywood royalty. On October 1, 1962, Johnny Carson made his Tonight Show debut, and the very first guest wasn't a comedian, but the iconic actress Joan Crawford. Back in the early 1900s, someone invented something called Crisco, a white, thick shortening made from vegetable oil. It looked weird, but made the food super crispy. There was a senator named Thomas Hart Benton who didn't just sit in meetings, he roared for change. From Missouri, he believed people should move west, explore and build. He talked about it nonstop. In the 1950s, meteorologists decided to stop calling storms things like Tropical Storm Number 3 and began using female names instead, making hurricanes more memorable and a bit more eerie. Back when Motown music was just starting, singers didn't have fancy studios. They recorded songs in a simple warehouse on West Grand Boulevard in Detroit. The place was plain, but the sound that came out was pure gold. Spuds MacKenzie became the party-loving face of Bud Light commercials in the 80s. Everyone thought Spuds was a cool dude dog. But guess what? Spuds was actually a girl named Honeytree Evil Eye. Yup, behind the sunglasses and stardom was a four-legged lady who fooled the whole world while wagging her tail through fame. There was a game show called the $64,000 Question that aired in the 50s and gave away an unbelievable amount of prize money. In just over a year, it handed out more cash than most could dream of. Johann Sebastian Bach's Goldberg Variations weren't written for concert halls. They were meant for quiet nights. The piece was commissioned by Count Hermann Karl von Kaiserlink, the Russian ambassador to the Saxon court, who struggled with insomnia. He asked for soothing music, and Bach delivered it through Johann Gottlieb Goldberg, a skilled harpsichordist who played the variations to help the Count fall asleep. In the movie Lara Croft Tomb Raider, The Cradle of Life, Lara Croft, played by Angelina Jolie, is on a high-stakes mission to find Pandora's box, an ancient artifact said to contain all the evils of the world. Alicia Keys stepped into the music world and absolutely set it on fire. In her first big year, she grabbed 5 Grammy Awards, including the top titles like Best New Artist and Song of the Year for Fallen. That song felt like heartbreak and healing in one voice. In the opening of Gilligan's Island, there's a quick shot of a flag flying at half-mast. It's easy to miss, but it was done to honor the recent assassination of President John F. Kennedy. Chitty Chitty, Bang Bang was a wild musical ride of a movie about a magical car that could fly and float. But here's the fun twist. It came from the same author who wrote the James Bond books. That's right, The man who created secret agents also invented a flying car powered by love and sugar. Peter Gabriel had his final #1 song on the U.S. charts back in the 80s with a wild creative hit called Sledgehammer. The music video was packed with weird clay animations and funky colors. If you made it this far, you're not like most people. Most click away. But you stayed. That means these truths meant something. Now tell me, which fact hit you the hardest? Scroll down. I want to know what stayed in your head.
What if I told you there's a cave so ancient, so isolated, that its air could kill you, yet it's teeming with creatures found nowhere else on Earth? Or that the most painful sting in the insect world doesn't just hurt, it feels like being burned alive for 24 hours straight. These aren't stories from science fiction movies. These are real, and they're just the beginning. But be warned, some of these, they might just change the way you see the world. In 1915, Charles Hatfield convinced San Diego officials that he could end their drought by releasing a proprietary mixture into the sky. Rain did arrive, followed by catastrophic flooding that washed out bridges and killed nearly 20 people. The city refused to pay him in full, citing the destruction. Hatfield, for his part, insisted the contract had not included a flood clause. The Basenji dog of Central Africa has managed to avoid barking for thousands of years thanks to an unusually shaped larynx. Instead, it produces a yodeling vocalization called a baru. This trait likely emerged through millennia of selective breeding among peoples in the Congo Basin, possibly to avoid attracting predators in the wild. The breed has been genetically distinct since antiquity. Ninjas in feudal Japan relied on natural ambient sounds like rustling leaves, flowing water, and animal calls to conceal their movements during missions. Contrary to popular myths, there is no historical evidence that they used dried cicada shells for camouflage. Their stealth depended on timing, environmental awareness, and disciplined movement techniques. Male seahorses, primarily from the genus Hippocampus, are the only known vertebrates where males carry and give birth to offspring. Fertilized eggs are deposited into a brood pouch, where the male provides oxygen and nutrients during gestation. After a period ranging from 10 days to 6 weeks, the male expels fully formed juveniles. This reproductive role reversal is unique among known animal species. The Costa Rican wasp lays its eggs on the back of the Plesiomata argyra spider, then chemically hijacks its brain. The larva compels the spider to weave a special web structure, not for catching prey, but for suspending the parasite's cocoon. After that, the spider is killed and eaten. The term web developer has rarely seemed more literal. Some species of parrots, including the Goffin's cockatoo, have demonstrated the ability to use tools in controlled studies. These birds have fashioned sticks to reach food or wedged objects to open containers. Their behavior suggests foresight and problem-solving abilities comparable to those seen in some primates. When Krakatoa erupted in August of 1883, it produced a sound so loud that it ruptured eardrums 40 miles away. It was heard over 3,000 miles across the Indian Ocean, reaching as far as Rodriguez Island and Alice Springs. The eruption's pressure wave circled the Earth 4 times, and barometers worldwide registered the shock wave for days. Subtle, it was not. Saturn's moon Hyperion spins like a malfunctioning top. Due to its irregular shape and gravitational tug-of-war with nearby moons, it never rotates the same way twice. First observed closely by Voyager 2 and later Cassini, it defies predictability. Even in a solar system filled with oddities, Hyperion still manages to look like it's improvising. The bacterium Dinococcus radiodurans can survive up to 5,000 grays of ionizing radiation, whereas 5 grays is usually fatal to a human. It repairs its own shattered DNA with near-magical precision and shrugs off dehydration and the vacuum of space. NASA has studied it for astrobiology purposes. Its nickname, Conan the Bacterium, is less hyperbole than job description. The Dyatlov Pass incident of 1959 involved 9 Soviet hikers found dead in the Ural Mountains under unexplained conditions. Their tent had been slashed from the inside. Some corpses bore massive internal trauma with no visible external injuries, while others lacked eyes or tongues. Official investigations remain inconclusive, ensuring the case's long-term tenure in conspiracy circles. In 2015, Paris removed over 45 tons of padlocks from the Pont des Arts bridge after years of tourists attaching them as declarations of eternal love. The collective weight was threatening the structural integrity of the 19th-century bridge. Apparently, nothing says forever like nearly collapsing municipal infrastructure. Sergei Krikalev launched into orbit as a citizen of the Soviet Union in 1991. By the time he returned 311 days later, the USSR had dissolved. Technically, he re-entered a different country than the one he'd left. For a brief moment, he was perhaps the only person who could say they had literally missed the fall of an empire. 12th-century monk Hugh of St. Victor drew a world map shaped like a cloverleaf, with Jerusalem at its geometric and spiritual center. Known as a mappa mundi, the design was meant less to depict geographic accuracy than to reflect Christian cosmology. East was placed at the top because that's where Eden was believed to be, and accuracy took a polite step back. The Babylonians developed a base 60 numerical system around 4,000 years ago, and it still echoes today every time we check a clock or measure an angle. 60 divides evenly by many smaller numbers, making it convenient for ancient astronomers and administrators alike. Civilization may have moved on, but the 60-minute hour remains stubbornly Mesopotamian. Ryukyu, a Norwegian town nestled deep in a valley, receives no direct sunlight from October to March. In 2013, engineers installed heliostat mirrors on nearby mountains to reflect sunlight into the town square. The result? An artificial sunbeam guided by computer brightens the plaza during the darkest days. Modern problems require extremely shiny solutions. The tradition of clinking drinking vessels during toasts is often said to have originated as a way to demonstrate trust and camaraderie, with some stories claiming it helped prevent poisoning by causing drinks to splash between cups. However, there is little historical evidence to support this explanation. Most historians believe that clinking glasses evolved as a social and ceremonial gesture to enhance the communal experience of drinking, engaging multiple senses. In the 19th century, grave robbing became widespread due to demand from medical schools for cadavers. To deter theft, some families installed coffin torpedoes, spring-loaded firearms designed to discharge if the coffin was tampered with. Patents for such devices appeared in the United States around the 1860s, including Philip K. Clover's design in 1878, which used black powder charges to deter body snatchers. The Amazon rainforest generates a significant portion of its own precipitation through transpiration. Moisture released by plant leaves condenses into clouds, contributing to the region's self-sustaining hydrological cycle. Approximately 75% of rainfall in the Amazon is recycled water. This feedback system maintains the rainforest's climate stability and supports one of the world's most biodiverse ecosystems. On June 30, 1908, a meteoroid exploded above the Tunguska region of Siberia, causing an airburst estimated at 15 megatons. The explosion flattened over 80 million trees across 2,000 square kilometers. No impact crater was found, indicating the object disintegrated in the atmosphere. The event remains the largest recorded asteroid-related explosion in recent history. The freshwater polyp Hydra vulgaris exhibits negligible senescence, meaning it does not undergo normal aging. It maintains regenerative capabilities via continuous stem cell renewal, allowing it to replace damaged or lost tissue indefinitely. Studies from the early 2000s have confirmed that, under ideal conditions, hydra populations can avoid detectable biological aging over time spans exceeding several years. During the 1904 Olympic Marathon in St. Louis, extreme heat, limited water stations, and contaminated fluids led to multiple health crises among competitors. Runners faced dust inhalation, dehydration, and interference by animals, including one chased by dogs. Only 14 of 32 participants completed the race. The event's lack of regulation prompted future reforms in Olympic marathon standards. The honey badger displays resistance to alpha neurotoxins found in cobra venom due to mutations in its nicotinic acetylcholine receptor. This genetic adaptation prevents the venom from binding effectively to nerve receptors. Following envenomation, the animal often becomes temporarily incapacitated but recovers fully. This resistance enables the species to prey on venomous snakes that would kill most mammals. In ancient Greece, amber, fossilized tree resin, was believed to be solidified sunlight. This interpretation, recorded by thinkers like Pythagoras and Aristotle, stemmed from amber's translucence and ability to hold static electricity when rubbed. The Greek term electron, referring to amber, later became the root word for electricity. Its true origin as tree resin was confirmed through scientific analysis in the 18th century. Amber preserves organic material through resin entrapment and rapid polymerization. Insects, plant matter, and microorganisms have been found in amber specimens dating back to the Cretaceous period, over 90 million years ago. These inclusions provide valuable data for paleontological research and evolutionary biology. Preservation occurs due to the resin's antiseptic properties and resistance to decomposition and oxidation. The blood of horseshoe crabs contains hemocyanin, which turns blue when oxygenated. It also contains amebocytes that coagulate in the presence of bacterial endotoxins. This property is used in limulus amebocyte lysate testing, a standard method for detecting contamination in injectable drugs and medical devices. Horseshoe crab harvesting for this purpose began in the 1970s. Monotropa uniflora, commonly known as the ghost plant, lacks chlorophyll and does not perform photosynthesis. It derives nutrients via mycoheterotrophy, obtaining carbon from fungi that are symbiotically associated with tree roots. Native to temperate forests in North America and Asia, it typically grows in low-light environments. The plant's white coloration results from its non-photosynthetic lifestyle. The Pirahã people, an indigenous group in the Brazilian Amazon, speak a language that lacks fixed words for exact quantities beyond one, two, and many. Their language also lacks past tense conjugation and subordinate clause structures. Linguist Daniel Everett documented these features in the early 2000s, sparking debate about the relationship between language, cognition, and cultural isolation. The Etruscans, who inhabited central Italy prior to Roman expansion, used a writing system derived from the Greek alphabet. Despite thousands of inscriptions dating from the 8th to 1st century BCE, the language remains only partially understood due to the lack of bilingual texts. Most surviving examples are funerary or religious, limiting insight into their full linguistic and grammatical structure. During World War II, British intelligence collaborated with Waddington's Limited to embed escape tools inside Monopoly boards sent to prisoners in Nazi camps. Hidden compartments contained maps, compasses, files, and currency. These items were distributed through the Red Cross under the guise of recreational aid. The project, part of MY9's operations, contributed to several documented prisoner escapes. Macaws, belonging to the family Psittacidae, exhibit long lifespans, with individuals in captivity living up to 70 years. These birds are known for forming monogamous pair bonds, often maintaining a single mate throughout their lives. This social behavior is supported by cooperative breeding, mutual grooming, and coordinated foraging observed across several macaw species, including Ara ararauna and Ara macau. The planet Uranus, discovered by William Herschel in 1781, was initially proposed to be named Georgium Sidus in honor of King George III. However, the astronomical community later adopted the name Uranus to align with the tradition of naming planets after figures from classical mythology, following Mars, Jupiter, and Saturn. In ancient Egyptian religion, the scarab beetle was a symbol of regeneration and rebirth. This association stemmed from its reproductive behavior, rolling dung balls containing eggs, which later produced beetles seemingly emerging from the ground without prior origin. Scarab amulets were commonly placed with the deceased to represent cyclical renewal. Launched in 1977, NASA's Voyager 1 and Voyager 2 spacecraft each carry a gold-plated copper phonograph record, known as the Golden Record. Compiled by a team led by Carl Sagan, it contains 115 images, and a variety of natural sounds, musical excerpts, and spoken greetings in 55 languages, intended as a message to potential extraterrestrial life. Phylogenetic analysis using molecular markers, such as ribosomal RNA and conserved proteins, has demonstrated that fungi share a more recent common ancestor with animals than with plants. This clade, known as Opisthokonta, includes both the animal kingdom and true fungi, highlighting the evolutionary divergence from Plantae. A 2007 study published in Hippocampus by Maguire et al. Found that licensed London taxi drivers exhibited increased gray matter volume in the posterior hippocampus. This neuroplastic adaptation was attributed to long-term navigation training involving the knowledge, a detailed memorization of approximately 25,000 streets and 20,000 landmarks in Greater London. The exoplanet HD 189733b, located 64.5 light-years from Earth in the constellation Vulpecula, has been observed to experience extreme weather phenomena. Spectroscopic data suggest the presence of silicate particles in the atmosphere, producing precipitation in the form of glass. Wind speeds on the planet have been measured at over 5,400 miles per hour. Dragonfly larvae possess an extendable labium, an anatomical structure functioning as a prehensile jaw. This appendage can rapidly project forward in less than 100 milliseconds to capture aquatic prey. The mechanism operates via hydraulic pressure changes within the larval head capsule. Circumhorizontal arcs, commonly referred to as fire rainbows, occur when sunlight passes through plate-shaped ice crystals in cirrus or stratus clouds at altitudes exceeding 20,000 feet. The optical phenomenon requires the sun to be at least 58 degrees above the horizon and produces a spectrum of colors due to light refraction and dispersion. Snowfall in the Sahara Desert is an uncommon event due to its hyper-arid climate. However, measurable snow was recorded near Ain Sefra, Algeria, in January 2018. The region, situated at approximately 1,000 meters above sea level in the Atlas Mountains, experienced rare meteorological conditions that allowed for frozen precipitation to accumulate briefly. In Norse cosmology, the universe was conceptualized as being supported by Yggdrasil, a colossal ash tree connecting the 9 realms. This mythological framework, preserved in sources such as the Poetic Edda and Prose Edda, reflects a structural view of the cosmos centered on divine order and spatial interconnectivity. Commercial airline pilots flying at high altitudes can witness multiple sunrises or sunsets in one flight. This occurs due to the aircraft's speed and altitude altering its relative position to the Earth's rotation. For example, a westbound flight at cruising altitude may delay sunset or cause it to reoccur. Circadian rhythm disruption is common on long-haul routes as a result. So if this fact just messed with your sense of time too, imagine what the next ones will do. Hit that subscribe button before the sun sets again. Or doesn't. Icefish, native to the Southern Ocean, possess blood devoid of hemoglobin, resulting in a nearly transparent appearance. These fish rely on the high solubility of oxygen in cold Antarctic waters and enhanced vascular structures to meet metabolic demands. This adaptation supports survival at temperatures near the freezing point of seawater. The Yellowstone caldera, a supervolcano located in the U.S. states of Wyoming, Montana, and Idaho, contains a magma reservoir estimated at over 46,000 cubic kilometers. Geological modeling suggests that a major eruption could disperse volcanic ash across the continental United States to depths of several inches, significantly affecting climate and ecosystems. In March 1938, Italian physicist Ettore Majorana disappeared while traveling from Palermo to Naples. A prominent figure in quantum theory, he contributed to the development of the Majorana fermion, a theoretical particle that is its own antiparticle. Despite extensive investigations, his disappearance remains unresolved and is the subject of ongoing historical inquiry. During metamorphosis, caterpillars undergo histolysis within the chrysalis, breaking down most tissues into a nutrient-rich cellular slurry. Imaginal discs then reorganize this material into adult butterfly structures, including wings and antennae. This process of complete transformation, or holometabolism, is regulated by hormones such as ecdysone and juvenile hormone. The Dalal geothermal field in Ethiopia's Danakil Depression exhibits extreme environmental conditions. Located at an elevation of approximately 130 meters below sea level, temperatures regularly exceed 110 degrees Fahrenheit. The area is characterized by acidic hypersaline lakes, high concentrations of sulfur and iron, and active hydrothermal vents, creating one of the most hostile ecosystems on Earth. The mantled goreza, a species of Old World monkey, possesses a complex, multi-chambered stomach adapted for folivory. Like ruminants, they ferment plant material using symbiotic microbes, allowing them to efficiently extract nutrients from fibrous leaves. This specialization supports their arboreal lifestyle in African montane and gallery forests. Spiders detect environmental cues through trichobothria, fine sensory hairs located on their legs. These structures respond to minute changes in air pressure and vibration, enabling the spider to perceive movement from several meters away. This mechanoreception aids in prey detection, predator avoidance, and web maintenance. Periodical cicadas of the genus Magicicada exhibit synchronized life cycles of 13 or 17 years, depending on the brood. These long developmental periods are spent underground in nymphal stages, feeding on xylem sap from tree roots. Emergence occurs en masse, serving as a predator satiation strategy and allowing successful reproduction over brief adult lifespans. The red liquid often seen in packages of raw meat is not blood, but a combination of water and myoglobin, a protein found in muscle tissue. Myoglobin binds oxygen, much like hemoglobin does in blood, and gives the liquid its reddish hue. Most of the blood is drained during processing, so what remains is largely the protein-rich moisture from the muscle itself. A giraffe's tongue can extend over 18 inches and is typically dark purple or bluish-black. This pigmentation may help protect it from sun exposure while the animal feeds on acacia trees in open savannas. The tongue's muscular dexterity and leathery texture allow giraffes to navigate around thorns and pull leaves from branches efficiently. Pine trees commonly exhibit spiral grain, a growth pattern where branches or needles form visible spirals along the trunk or limbs. This phenomenon arises from a combination of genetic coding and environmental factors like wind or sunlight. Although early theories proposed a connection between spiral direction and Earth's hemispheres, scientific studies have found no consistent global pattern, underscoring the complexity of plant development. Earthworms have 5 pairs of aortic arches that serve the function of pumping blood through their segmented bodies. These arches are not true hearts, but perform a similar role by maintaining circulation in the closed vascular system. The simplicity and efficiency of this system support the worm's burrowing lifestyle and oxygen exchange through its skin. The Great Attractor is a region of immense gravitational pull located near the Hydra Centaurus supercluster, roughly 200 million light-years from Earth. It appears to be drawing galaxies, including our own Milky Way, toward it at high speed. Its full composition is difficult to observe due to interference from the Milky Way's plane, making it one of the more puzzling features in large-scale cosmic structure. The quokka is a small marsupial native to islands off the coast of Western Australia, including Rottnest Island. It is nocturnal and herbivorous, and it shows little fear of humans, often approaching people and appearing to smile due to the structure of its mouth. This expression has contributed to its popularity in photographs, though interaction is regulated to protect the species. The venom of the cone snail, particularly species like Conus geographus, contains a complex mix of toxins that can affect the nervous system and be fatal to humans within hours. Despite this, its peptides, known as conotoxins, are being studied for their precision in targeting pain pathways. Some show promise as alternatives to opioid-based painkillers in pharmaceutical research. The coelacanth, a lobe-finned fish thought to have gone extinct around 66 million years ago, was found alive off the coast of South Africa in 1938. This discovery challenged assumptions about vertebrate evolution. Coelacanths are now considered living fossils and are primarily found in deep waters near the Comoros Islands and Indonesia. The San Andreas Fault, which forms the tectonic boundary between the Pacific and North American plates, shifts at an average rate of about 5 centimeters, roughly 2 inches, per year. While this movement is gradual, it accumulates strain that can be released suddenly in the form of earthquakes, making it a significant feature in California's seismic landscape. Decorator crabs, particularly those in the Magioidea superfamily, are known to attach living anemones, algae, or sponges to their shells. This behavior serves both as camouflage and protection, since some of the attached organisms are toxic or unpalatable to predators. The mutualism benefits the crab through defense and the anemones by gaining mobility. Hagfish produce a remarkable slime composed of mucin proteins and fibrous threads when threatened. In seawater, a small amount of this secretion can expand rapidly, turning a bucket of water into a viscous gel. This defense mechanism clogs the gills of predators and allows the hagfish to escape, making it one of the most efficient anti-predation systems in the animal kingdom. The Suriname toad reproduces through a highly specialized method where eggs are embedded into the female's back. After external fertilization, the skin grows around each egg, forming pockets. Fully formed juveniles eventually emerge through these dorsal openings. This reproductive strategy provides protection during development and is rare among amphibians. Around 2 billion years ago, natural nuclear fission reactions occurred in what is now Oklo, Gabon. Rich uranium deposits, along with the presence of groundwater to moderate neutron flow, created sustained chain reactions in localized zones. These ancient natural reactors operated intermittently for hundreds of thousands of years and provide insight into nuclear stability and geological processes. The Arabian sand boa is a small burrowing snake adapted to desert environments. It often lies hidden beneath the sand, with only its eyes and snout visible. Though not confirmed to possess infrared sensing, it detects vibrations and heat from surface prey. Its behavior allows it to ambush small lizards and rodents with minimal movement. Quantum entanglement describes a phenomenon where two or more particles become linked in such a way that the state of one is dependent on the state of the other, even across great distances. Verified through experiments involving photon polarization and electron spin, this property challenges classical notions of locality and has implications for quantum computing and cryptography. The olm is a blind aquatic salamander found in cave systems of the Dinaric Alps in Europe. It can survive without food for up to 10 years by drastically reducing its metabolic rate. Olms live in near total darkness, relying on sensory adaptations to detect prey, and can live for over 100 years, making them among the longest-lived amphibians. The Fermi paradox arises from the contrast between the high probability of extraterrestrial civilizations existing in a vast, ancient universe and the absence of any confirmed contact or detection. Named after physicist Enrico Fermi, the paradox has inspired numerous hypotheses ranging from the rarity of intelligent life to self-limiting technological civilizations or observational limitations. When Apollo 12 astronauts revisited their landing site in November 1969, they observed their earlier footprints undisturbed. The moon's lack of atmosphere, wind, or liquid erosion allows surface impressions to remain intact indefinitely. The fine lunar regolith, composed of sharp, compacted dust particles, retains prints with high fidelity. These preserved markings serve as long-term evidence of human activity in an environment without natural weathering processes. Komodo dragons can reproduce via parthenogenesis, a form of asexual reproduction observed in captive females without male contact. Documented in 2 zoo specimens in 2006, this process enables unfertilized eggs to develop into genetically male offspring. The mechanism involves the duplication of maternal chromosomes during oogenesis, making Komodo dragons one of the largest vertebrates capable of facultative parthenogenesis. The brain of a bumblebee measures approximately 2 cubic millimeters, yet enables complex behaviors such as pattern recognition, maze navigation, and observational learning. A 2016 study published in Science demonstrated that bumblebees could learn to roll a ball to a target for a reward by mimicking trained individuals. These results suggest cognitive processing far exceeding expectations for insects with such minimal neural volume. GJ1214b, discovered in 2009 by the Mirth Project, is a super-Earth located 48 light-years away in the Ophiuchus constellation. Its low density, about 1.9 grams per cubic centimeter, and atmospheric modeling suggests the planet may be composed largely of water, potentially covered by oceans hundreds of kilometers deep. Its thick steam atmosphere obscures direct observation, complicating confirmation of its internal structure. An ancient clay tablet from Uruk, dated to approximately 2600 BCE, is considered the world's oldest known written list of administrative records. Inscribed in early cuneiform script, the tablet itemizes food distributions and goods such as barley and beer, allocated to workers. It reflects the use of proto-writing for logistical tracking in Sumerian city-states and provides early evidence of record-keeping systems in Mesopotamian governance. The kakapo, a nocturnal flightless parrot native to New Zealand, produces a mating call at frequencies around 100 Hz. This low-frequency booming sound can travel several kilometers through dense forest. Males broadcast these calls from shallow ground depressions to attract females during lek-based mating seasons. Conservation efforts track these vocalizations to monitor the critically endangered population, which numbered fewer than 300 individuals as of 2024. The spa town of Ramsar, Iran, contains natural hot springs with background radiation levels reaching up to 260 millisieverts annually, more than 50 times the global average. The high radiation originates from radium-rich travertine deposits in the region. Despite chronic exposure, epidemiological studies have not shown increased cancer rates among long-term residents, prompting further investigation into adaptive responses to elevated ionizing radiation. The venom of the Japanese giant hornet contains mandaratoxin, phospholipase, and a tissue-degrading enzyme that can cause necrosis in humans. Each sting delivers up to 8 microliters of venom, with LD50 levels posing significant risk in cases of multiple stings. Insect pathologists classify the pain as high on the Schmidt Sting Pain Index, and allergic reactions can result in anaphylaxis, accounting for fatalities in Japan annually. WASP-12b, discovered in 2008, is a hot Jupiter exoplanet orbiting its star at only 2.1 million kilometers, about 40 times closer than Earth to the Sun. Tidal forces stretch the planet, causing mass loss at an estimated rate of 6 billion metric tons per second. The escaping material forms a comet-like tail, making WASP-12b one of the most extreme examples of atmospheric disruption by stellar gravity. The skeleton of a blue whale, the largest known animal, can measure over 25 meters in length and weigh more than 7 tons when fully assembled. Museums such as the Natural History Museum in London and the Canadian Museum of Nature house specimens requiring reinforced structures or hangar-sized display areas. The sheer scale poses logistical challenges for transportation, preservation, and installation. A crocodile's stomach secretes hydrochloric acid with a pH as low as 1.2, enabling it to dissolve bones, hooves, and shells with high efficiency. The extremely acidic environment, combined with muscular gizzard-like grinding, facilitates digestion of entire prey. This physiological trait allows crocodilians to consume and extract nutrients from otherwise indigestible animal materials, minimizing waste and extending intervals between feedings. The parasitic barnacle, Saculi nu caresini, infects crabs by injecting cells into the host's body, eventually growing root-like tendrils that manipulate the crab's endocrine system. Infected crabs are chemically castrated and behaviorally modified to care for the parasite's larvae as if they were their own offspring. The host's abdomen expands to mimic a female crab's egg sac, regardless of the crab's original sex. Giant clams can weigh over 230 kilograms and reach lengths exceeding 1.2 meters. They maintain symbiotic relationships with Symbiodinium algae housed in their mantle tissue. The algae photosynthesize and provide the clam with nutrients, while the clam offers protection and access to sunlight. This mutualism enables giant clams to thrive in nutrient-poor tropical reef environments. The sailfish has been recorded reaching speeds up to 36 kilometers per hour in short bursts, making it among the fastest marine fish. Its speed is attributed to a streamlined body, retractable dorsal fin, and long, rigid bill that reduces water resistance. Hydrodynamic studies confirm the species' capacity for rapid acceleration during predation or evasion behaviors. Cave pearls form through concentric precipitation of calcium carbonate in limestone caves. Agitated by dripping water, a small nucleus, such as a grain of sand, accumulates layers of calcite, similar to pearl formation in mollusks. Conditions must maintain saturation and motion to prevent attachment to cave surfaces. Cave pearls vary in size and are typically found in shallow, agitated pools. Lungless salamanders of the family Plethodontidae respire entirely through cutaneous gas exchange via moist skin and the buccopharyngeal tissues lining the mouth. They possess no lungs at any developmental stage. This respiratory adaptation supports their survival in humid terrestrial and aquatic environments. The absence of lungs is thought to enhance buoyancy control and streamline body morphology, aiding in crevice dwelling and substrate adherence. Megalodon, an extinct species of mackerel shark, reached estimated lengths exceeding 18 meters. Fossilized teeth, up to 18 centimeters long, suggest a powerful bite force exceeding 180,000 newtons. The species thrived from the Miocene to Pliocene epochs and likely preyed on large marine mammals. Its extinction occurred approximately 3.6 million years ago, potentially due to oceanic cooling and prey scarcity. The diabolical ironclad beetle possesses an exoskeleton that can withstand compressive forces up to 149 newtons, equivalent to being run over by a car. Its durability is due to a layered, interlocked elytra structure with suture-mediated deformation zones. Micro-CT and SEM imaging reveal a jigsaw-like arrangement that dissipates mechanical stress, making it one of the toughest known terrestrial beetles. Now your turn. Drop a comment telling us the toughest thing you've survived. Bonus points if it involved a beetle or a bumper. Males of Darwin's frog practice a reproductive behavior known as vocal sac brooding. After external fertilization, the male swallows the developing tadpoles and houses them in his vocal sac until metamorphosis is complete. The juveniles are released as fully formed froglets. This behavior, unique among amphibians, minimizes predation risk during early development and was first documented in the mid-19th century. The saola, discovered in 1992 in the Annamite Mountains of Laos and Vietnam, is one of the rarest known large mammals. It measures about 85 centimeters at the shoulder and bears parallel horns up to 50 centimeters long. Saola sightings are extremely rare, and the species is classified as critically endangered by the IUCN due to habitat loss and poaching. In jacana bird species such as Jacana jacana, males provide sole parental care by incubating eggs and raising hatchlings. Females are polyandrous, mating with multiple males and defending large territories containing several nesting partners. This sex role reversal is rare among birds and is associated with the species' aquatic habitat, where floating vegetation supports nest building and egg protection. A zombie star is a white dwarf that survives a Type Ia supernova by accreting material from a binary companion. In some cases, incomplete detonation allows the remnant to persist while reigniting thermonuclear fusion. Observations of supernova SN 2012Z provided evidence of such a phenomenon. These events challenge traditional models of stellar death and contribute to research on binary star evolution. The lesser water boatman produces sounds reaching 99 decibels, equivalent to a passing freight train, by rubbing a ridged penis against its abdomen. This mechanism, known as stridulation, is used to attract mates and is amplified by resonance in air-filled abdominal cavities. Despite its 2-millimeter size, it holds the record for the loudest sound relative to body size among known animals. The Devil's Kettle, in Judge C.R. Magny State Park, Minnesota, features a bifurcated waterfall where one stream flows into a visible river while the other vanishes into a pothole. For years, the outlet was unknown. In 2017, hydrologists confirmed through dye and flow rate tests that the water re-emerges downstream, resolving the long-standing hydrological anomaly. The shoebill stork, native to Central and East African swamps, exhibits a unique intimidation display that includes prolonged staring and forceful bill clattering. It stands up to 1.5 meters tall, with a bill length exceeding 20 centimeters. The bird's hunting strategy involves remaining motionless for extended periods before striking prey such as lungfish, reptiles, or small mammals. Cuttlefish belonging to the order Sepida possess chromatophores, iridophores, and papillae that enable rapid changes in skin color and texture. These adaptations allow mimicry of complex environments such as coral, sand, or artificial patterns. The mechanisms are neurologically controlled and used for both camouflage and intraspecies communication. High-speed videography has recorded transformation sequences occurring in less than 1 second. The golden poison dart frog, native to Colombia's Pacific coast, secretes batrachotoxin from its skin. A single adult contains enough toxin, approximately 1 milligram, to lethally affect 10 humans. In captivity, the frogs lose toxicity due to the absence of dietary alkaloids from specific insects such as mellirid beetles, indicating the toxin is diet-derived rather than endogenously synthesized. Temnothorax albipennis, a European ant species, exhibits tandem running as a form of teaching. An experienced ant leads a naive individual to a target location while adjusting speed based on follower feedback. The behavior satisfies teaching criteria, costly to the leader and beneficial to the learner. First documented in 2006, it remains one of the few recognized examples of pedagogy in non-human species. The ruby sea dragon, first described in 2015 from museum specimens, was observed alive in the wild for the first time in 2016 off Western Australia. Unlike other sea dragons, it lacks elaborate appendages and resides in deeper waters, up to 50 meters. Its reddish pigmentation may aid in camouflage at low light depths. The species is one of only 3 known sea dragon types. African termites, particularly macroterm species, construct mounds up to 9 meters tall with internal air channels that regulate temperature and humidity. These structures maintain internal conditions near 30 degrees Celsius despite external fluctuations exceeding 20 degrees. The architecture relies on passive convection, with openings positioned to facilitate airflow. The system supports fungal cultivation inside the nest, which serves as a food source. The Death Valley pupfish survives in shallow desert pools, with salinity up to 70 parts per thousand and water temperatures exceeding 40 degrees Celsius. This fish is a relic species from the Pleistocene epoch, when large lakes covered the region. Today, isolated populations persist in locations such as Salt Creek, adapting to extreme and variable desert conditions. Pine cones, particularly those of Pinus species, respond to humidity through hygroscopic movement. Their seed scales open in dry conditions and close in high humidity, optimizing seed dispersal. The movement results from differentially swelling tissues in the cone's structural layers. This passive adaptation does not require metabolic energy and can be replicated in artificial materials for humidity-sensitive applications. The nematode Pan agrolumus columensis spent roughly 46,000 years frozen in Siberian permafrost. When thawed in a lab in 2018, it resumed life, casually, as if it hadn't taken the longest nap in evolutionary history. Its survival hinges on cryptobiosis, a state where metabolic activity essentially halts, making it less dead and more on hold since the Ice Age. Male giant water bugs take the phrase hands-on parenting to a new level. After females glue fertilized eggs onto their backs, the males spend over a week carrying them around like a spiny backpack. They guard the eggs against predators and fan water over them to prevent dehydration, essentially turning into floating, overprotective creches with legs. The Venus flower basket, a deep-sea sponge from the genus Tella, constructs its body from silica fibers. Yes, glass. These naturally grown lattice structures are not only strong but flexible too. Meanwhile, engineers are still arguing about how to stop their glass cables from snapping when someone sneezes too hard. The hawk moth caterpillar doesn't rely on hiding. It goes full theater. When threatened, it inflates its upper body to resemble a snake's head, complete with eye-like markings. This bit of visual deception is so convincing, it can scare off birds, which is impressive for something that's basically a leaf pretending to be a cobra. At liftoff, NASA's Saturn V rocket generated about 160 million horsepower, more than all the electricity New York City used that day in 1969. It was designed to carry humans to the moon, but judging by the numbers, it could have taken Manhattan with it. Rainforests don't just experience weather, they manufacture it. The canopy traps heat and moisture, recycling water through transpiration and evaporation. This forms a closed-loop climate so efficient it can cause rain even when the surrounding atmosphere remains dry. It's essentially nature's version of central air, without the electricity bill. The long-eared jerboa is a nocturnal rodent from Central Asia's deserts, with ears half the length of its body. Its hind legs are built for bouncing, making it hop like a mini kangaroo while looking like it borrowed its hearing from a bat. Evolution clearly was feeling experimental that day. The Caspian Sea holds the world record for geographical identity crisis. Though called a sea, it's actually a massive saltwater lake spanning over 143,000 square miles. Legally, whether it's a sea or a lake affects oil rights, so it's not just a naming issue, it's an international headache with waves. Male pufferfish are underwater artists. To impress mates, they spend up to 10 days carving elaborate circular patterns in the ocean floor, some over 6 feet wide. These symmetrical sand sculptures rival crop circles. And unlike human artists, the fish don't even need opposable thumbs or gallery space. The aye-aye, native to Madagascar, looks like it was assembled from leftover animal parts. Its most infamous feature is a bony, elongated middle finger used to tap tree bark and extract larvae. Basically, a biological xylophone combined with chopstick hunting. It's considered unlucky by local folklore, possibly due to its nightmarish silhouette. Whale songs come with regional accents. Humpbacks in the Pacific sing different tunes than those in the Atlantic, with each pod maintaining unique vocalizations. These dialects evolve over time and are even remixed as whales migrate, forming the closest thing marine life has to a Spotify playlist. The sandcat lives in deserts where surface temperatures soar past 120 degrees Fahrenheit. It survives by burrowing during the day and hunting at night. Its thick fur insulates against heat and cold, and its paws are so hairy it walks silently, like a ninja that hates sunshine. The Republic of Molossia is a self-declared micronation near Dayton, Nevada, complete with a flag, currency called the Valora, and even a fake war with East Germany. It has a population of under 40, a navy with no boats, and a space program that mostly involves weather balloons. Recognition, still pending. Naked mole rats are full of surprises. When deprived of oxygen, they switch from glucose metabolism to fructose, mimicking the way plants process energy. This metabolic sidestep allows them to survive without oxygen for up to 18 minutes. Meanwhile, most mammals panic after 2. Iceland hasn't had a standing army since it became independent in 1944, yet it's a founding member of NATO. It relies on defense agreements and Coast Guard patrols, choosing diplomacy and geothermal energy over tanks. Apparently, volcanic islands make better hot springs than battlegrounds. The term dinosaur was introduced by British paleontologist Richard Owen in the year 1842. Before that, large fossilized bones found in Europe as early as the 17th century were often misidentified as remains of giants or dragons. Owen coined the name Dinosauria, meaning terrible lizards, based on fossils of creatures like Iguanodon and Megalosaurus. The Moken people, an indigenous group living around the Andaman Sea, develop remarkable underwater vision from a young age. By repeatedly diving in clear coastal waters, their eyes adapt to refract light more effectively underwater, improving clarity. Studies have shown Moken children can see underwater about twice as clearly as their European peers. Resurrection plants are able to survive extreme desiccation. In dry conditions, they curl up and enter a dormant state, often for years. When exposed to moisture, they rehydrate within hours and resume photosynthesis. These plants are found in arid regions like deserts, where water is rare and unpredictable. Kepler 438b is an exoplanet located about 470 light-years away in the constellation Lyra. It is nearly the same size as Earth and orbits within its star's habitable zone. However, it receives intense solar flares from its host star, likely stripping away any atmosphere and reducing its chances of supporting life as we know it. A phantom traffic jam is a real phenomenon where traffic slows or stops without any visible cause, like an accident or construction. It usually starts when one driver brakes slightly, triggering a chain reaction of overcorrections by drivers behind. This ripple can magnify over time, creating a jam seemingly out of nowhere. In many Australian Aboriginal cultures, geography was memorized and navigated using song lines. Each verse of a song described physical features like rivers, rocks, and paths. These oral maps helped individuals travel across vast distances, with knowledge passed down through generations and rooted in tradition, environment, and spiritual belief. The Orion Nebula is a prominent stellar nursery located roughly 1,344 light-years from Earth. It lies in the sword of the Orion constellation and can be seen without a telescope on clear nights. The nebula spans over 24 light-years and is one of the closest regions where stars are actively forming. Humans retain a vestigial third eyelid, called the plica semilunaris. It appears as a small fold of tissue in the inner corner of each eye. This remnant is believed to be what's left of a once functional nictitating membrane, an inner eyelid used by some reptiles, birds, and amphibians to protect and moisten the eye. The Basque people, who live in the Western Pyrenees, straddling parts of Spain and France, speak a language known as Euskara. It is considered a linguistic isolate, meaning it has no proven relationship to any other known language family. Its origins remain a mystery, even after extensive study by linguists and historians. Tektites are small, dark glassy objects formed during meteorite impacts. When a meteor strikes Earth, the heat and pressure can melt the surrounding rock. This molten material is ejected into the atmosphere, where it cools rapidly into natural glass. Tektites have been found on several continents and are often used in geologic dating. Mawsynram, a village in the Indian state of Meghalaya, holds the record for the highest annual rainfall on Earth. It receives over 467 inches of rain per year due to the region's unique topography, which traps moisture-laden monsoon winds. Most of the rain falls between June and September. Japan is home to the Unko Museum, an interactive exhibit entirely themed around poop. Located in Yokohama and later expanded to Tokyo, the museum uses colorful, cartoon-style installations to present defecation as a cultural and biological topic. Visitors can engage with exhibits designed to be both educational and lighthearted. In ancient China, especially during the Zhou and Han dynasties, medical philosophy emphasized prevention over cure. The most respected physicians were those who kept people healthy rather than treating them after falling ill. This belief in maintaining balance and avoiding disease formed the foundation of early Chinese healthcare and guided many of its classical medical texts. The Yamal Peninsula in northern Russia has developed mysterious craters over the past decade. These formations, some as wide as 70 feet, are believed to be caused by methane gas trapped in permafrost. As the frozen ground thaws due to rising temperatures, the gas builds up pressure until it violently erupts. Time zones were first proposed in the late 19th century by Sir Sandford Fleming, a Canadian engineer and railway planner. Before this system, local time was based on the sun's position, which created confusion for train schedules. Fleming's concept divided the world into 24 zones, each 1 hour apart, simplifying global coordination. The cork oak tree, native to parts of southwestern Europe and North Africa, has bark that can be harvested without damaging the tree. After being stripped, the bark regenerates over about 9 years. This makes it a sustainable source of natural cork used in wine stoppers, insulation, and other products. In zero gravity, astronauts can't rely on weight to keep them anchored. Instead, they use Velcro patches, foot restraints, or handholds to stay in place while working, eating, or sleeping aboard spacecraft. This is essential in microgravity environments like the International Space Station, where every motion sends the body drifting. The Antikythera mechanism, retrieved from a 1st century BCE shipwreck off a Greek island, is a gear-driven device capable of predicting eclipses and planetary movements. Often referred to as the world's first analog computer, it predates modern clockwork by over 1,000 years. Historians are still unsure why ancient mariners needed a celestial calculator aboard a cargo vessel. A gorilla's nose is, apparently, its calling card. Each individual has a distinct pattern of wrinkles and nostril shape, which researchers use for identification, similar to fingerprints, but slightly less convenient to scan at airports. After spacewalks, astronauts often report a peculiar smell clinging to their suits once back inside the airlock. It's typically described as metallic, or like seared steak. The likely culprit is ionized particles interacting with oxygen. In other words, space might smell faintly of burnt machinery and overcooked barbecue. The Colosseum, best known for gladiator fights, was occasionally flooded to stage naval battles, or naumachii, using aqueducts to fill the arena. The exact hydraulic engineering behind this is unknown, though clearly someone in ancient Rome looked at a battlefield and thought, needs more water. Orcapods speak in dialects. These vocal patterns are unique to each group and passed from generation to generation, along with hunting strategies and social rituals. Among non-humans, this qualifies as culture. Among humans, it's often called regional stubbornness. Octopuses have been seen using coconut shells and rocks as portable shelters or barricades. This tool use is one of the few documented cases among invertebrates. Apparently, 8 arms are sufficient for both problem-solving and interior decorating. Certain spider species, such as the black widow and Australian redback, engage in sexual cannibalism. The male approaches mates and is promptly eaten. This may increase reproductive success, though it's unclear how useful success is when one's been digested. The Ediacaran period, which ended roughly 540 million years ago, featured organisms with no bones, no shells, and no modern relatives. Fossils resemble quilted mats or abstract shapes. Their evolutionary contribution is unclear, though they did manage to exist without resembling anything remotely familiar. In a vacuum, metal surfaces can undergo cold welding, fusing together without heat, because their atoms see no reason to distinguish one object from another. On Earth, this is rare. In orbit, it's just another quiet way your tools might betray you. The oldest known written recipe is not for bread or stew, but beer. It appears on a Sumerian clay tablet from around 2600 BCE and describes a fermentation process using barley via a communal drink called kvass. Priorities, it seems, have remained remarkably consistent. Lake Baikal in Siberia is the world's oldest freshwater lake, over 25 million years old, and the deepest, plunging over 5,000 feet. It contains about 1/5 of Earth's unfrozen surface freshwater, as though Russia decided to keep an entire ocean in a single crack. The Andean condor holds the record for the largest wingspan of any terrestrial bird, stretching over 10 feet. It can glide for hours without flapping, aided by thermals in the Andes. It feeds primarily on carrion, soaring gracefully over landscapes while looking for something already dead. Cahokia, located near present-day St. Louis, supported a population of over 15,000 around 1200 CE, larger than London at the time. It featured large earthen mounds, complex trade routes, and urban planning. Today, it's mostly a quiet field next to an interstate. The Rosetta Stone, carved in 196 BCE, contains a decree in 3 scripts: Greek, Demotic, and Egyptian hieroglyphs. When discovered in 1799, it allowed scholars, most notably Jean-François Champollion, to decode hieroglyphs. Multilingual bureaucracy, it turns out, had long-term benefits. In the Amazon, a species of tarantula has been observed cohabiting with a small frog. The spider protects the frog from predators, while the frog eats ants that threaten the spider's eggs. A functional arrangement, equal parts odd and efficient. The desert locust, under certain environmental triggers, transforms from a solitary creature into a swarming one. Its body changes color, its brain rewires for group behavior, and it joins vast insect clouds capable of destroying crops across continents. Essentially, famine in motion, initiated by a slight change in rainfall. The flamingo's beak exhibits a highly specialized morphological adaptation for filter feeding in turbid aquatic environments. The beak is bent downward in the middle and functions efficiently when the bird feeds with its head inverted. Lamellae along the bill act as filtration structures, allowing the bird to separate small organisms such as algae and crustaceans from water and mud. The shoebill possesses a robust, shoe-shaped bill, capable of exerting considerable mechanical force. This bill enables the bird to subdue and crush prey items, such as lungfish, frogs, and juvenile crocodiles. The tomial edges function similarly to a pair of shears, making it one of the most formidable beaks among avian species. The Earth's atmosphere exhibits latitudinal variation in thickness due to centrifugal force generated by planetary rotation. Atmospheric bulging at the equator results in a thicker troposphere compared to the polar regions. This distribution is influenced by the Earth's oblate spheroid shape and is observable in satellite measurements of atmospheric pressure gradients. Voyager 1, launched by NASA on September 5, 1977, is currently the most distant human-made object in space. It entered interstellar space in August 2012 and continues to transmit scientific data using its radioisotope thermoelectric generator, RTG. As of 2025, it is over 165 astronomical units from Earth. Peacock feathers derive their iridescent coloration not from chemical pigmentation, but from structural coloration. Microscopic arrays of keratin and melanin within the feather barbules produce interference patterns that reflect and refract light at varying wavelengths, a phenomenon first detailed by physicist Lord Rayleigh. The enlarged nasal appendage of the male proboscis monkey serves both acoustic and sexual selection functions. The nose enhances vocal resonance, allowing males to produce low-frequency calls that signal dominance and attract females. Studies suggest nose size correlates positively with harem size and social rank. The Etruscan civilization employed polished bronze mirrors, not only for personal grooming, but as funerary artifacts. These objects often bear engraved mythological scenes and inscriptions in Etruscan script, indicating their symbolic role in burial practices and afterlife beliefs. Numerous examples have been excavated from necropolises such as Cerveteri. Japanese macaques have demonstrated culturally transmitted foraging behaviors, including the washing of sweet potatoes in fresh water. First observed by primatologist Kinji Imanishi in the 1950s, this behavior expanded to include dipping food in seawater. These actions represent one of the earliest recorded instances of non-human social learning in the wild. The basilisk lizard exhibits a unique locomotor adaptation that allows it to run across water surfaces for distances up to 20 meters. This capability is facilitated by large hind feet with specialized scutes and a rapid slapping motion that creates air pockets, reducing surface tension and preventing submersion. Certain orchid species, including Ophrys apifera, utilize sexual deception as a pollination strategy. These plants mimic both the visual appearance and chemical pheromones of female insects, primarily bees or wasps, to attract male pollinators. The resulting pseudocopulation ensures pollen transfer without offering nectar rewards. The Milky Way galaxy spans an estimated diameter of 100,000 light-years. Despite the speed of light being approximately 299,792 kilometers per second, a photon would require over 100 millennia to traverse the galactic disk, illustrating the scale of extragalactic travel limitations. And while we wait for warp speed to be invented, you can travel exactly 0 light-years to drop a comment below. How far do you think humans will actually make it in space? In classical antiquity, particularly in Homeric and early Greek medical traditions, the liver was regarded as the central organ of consciousness and emotion. This belief, predating the association of cognitive function with the brain, is evidenced in mythological texts and anatomical treatises, such as those attributed to Alcmaeon of Croton. The blue dragon sea slug is a pelagic nudibranch that preys upon venomous cnidarians, such as the Portuguese man-o'-war. It ingests nematocysts and stores them within specialized tissues, enabling it to utilize the stinging cells for its own defensive mechanisms. The organism floats ventrally side up due to air stored in its stomach. Ravens have demonstrated advanced cognitive abilities, including episodic planning and delayed gratification. Experiments by scientists such as Matthias Osvath have shown that ravens can select tools for future use and resist immediate rewards, challenging the assumption that such behaviors are exclusive to primates. Sunflowers exhibit heliotropism during their juvenile phase, adjusting the position of their inflorescences to track the sun from east to west throughout the day. This movement, regulated by circadian rhythms and differential cell elongation in the stem, maximizes photosynthetic efficiency. Mature plants typically orient eastward to optimize morning light capture. Leucochloridium paradoxum is a parasitic flatworm that infects snails of the genus Succinia. Once inside the host, it invades the eye stalks, causing them to swell and pulsate in bright colors. This mimicry resembles caterpillars, attracting birds that eat the snail appendages and disperse the parasite's eggs through their droppings, thus completing the life cycle. In Norse mythology, Ragnarok is a foretold apocalyptic event involving the death of gods, widespread natural catastrophes, and the submersion of the world in water. According to sources like the Poetic Edda, the event culminates in a rebirth. Survivors emerge, the earth resurfaces, and a new world is established with restored order. Following cardiac arrest, the human brain may remain electrically active for several minutes. Electroencephalographic studies in both animals and a small number of human cases have recorded gamma wave bursts, which are associated with conscious perception and memory recall. These findings are currently under investigation in neurological research. Surtsey, a volcanic island located off Iceland's southern coast, was formed by an undersea eruption in November 1963. It became a protected site for studying primary ecological succession, as human interference was strictly limited. Researchers have observed colonization by bacteria, fungi, plants, and eventually birds over several decades. The okapi, a forest-dwelling herbivore native to the Democratic Republic of the Congo, was unknown to Western science until 1901. Though closely related to the giraffe, it exhibits zebra-like stripes on its legs and a shorter neck, adapted for dense rainforest habitats. The deepest known terrestrial animal is a species of springtail discovered over 1,600 meters underground in the Krubera Cave of the Western Caucasus. This hexapod, adapted to total darkness and high pressure, illustrates the extreme ecological niches that microarthropods can inhabit. The constellation Draco, meaning dragon in Latin, coils around the north celestial pole and is visible year-round in the northern hemisphere. It has been associated with mythological serpents in Greek stories, such as Ladon, the guardian of the golden apples, and appears in Mesopotamian star lore as a sky serpent. Certain lichen species have survived exposure to outer space conditions for over a year. Experiments on the International Space Station showed their resilience to vacuum, cosmic radiation, and extreme temperatures. These findings contribute to astrobiological studies on the survivability of life in extraterrestrial environments. Saturn's moon Mimas, measuring about 396 kilometers in diameter, features a large impact crater called Herschel that is roughly one-third its width. Images from the Voyager missions in the 1980s led to public comparisons with the fictional Death Star, though the resemblance is coincidental. The Andes Mountains, extending approximately 7,000 kilometers along South America's western edge, were formed by the subduction of the oceanic Nazca Plate beneath the continental South American plate. This tectonic activity results in active volcanism, frequent seismic events, and some of the highest peaks outside the Himalayas. The phrase red herring originally referred to a strongly cured smoked fish used to train scent hounds by dragging it along trails to create a false path. Over time, the term entered metaphorical use in English literature to describe misleading clues or distractions in argument or storytelling. Ancient Egyptian surgical practices included trepanation, the process of drilling or scraping openings into the skull. Evidence from archaeological remains indicates that some patients survived the procedure, as shown by signs of bone healing. The purpose may have been medical or ritualistic, though the exact motivations remain uncertain. The golden tortoise beetle exhibits structural color change in response to environmental stimuli. Its exoskeleton contains microscopic layers of fluid and chitin that reflect light. Under stress or changes in humidity, the beetle can shift from metallic gold to dull reddish brown, possibly as a defensive mechanism. Neanderthals had average cranial capacities ranging from 1,200 to 1,700 cubic centimeters, slightly larger than those of modern humans. However, brain size alone does not determine cognitive complexity, as neural architecture and connectivity play more significant roles in processing ability. Geogemma barosi, a hyperthermophilic archaeon, was discovered in hydrothermal vent systems at the Juan de Fuca Ridge. It is capable of reproducing at temperatures up to 121 degrees Celsius, exceeding the boiling point of water at sea level. This extremophile's resilience informs studies in microbial biotechnology and origin of life research. Periodical cicadas emerge in synchronized broods every 13 or 17 years. These prime-numbered life cycles reduce overlap with predator cycles and prevent hybridization between broods. Their emergence in vast numbers saturates predators, ensuring sufficient survivors for reproduction, a strategy known as predator satiation. The Galileo spacecraft, launched by NASA in 1989, was intentionally directed to crash into Jupiter in 2003. This decision ensured that the probe would not accidentally contaminate potentially habitable Jovian moons, such as Europa, with terrestrial microorganisms. The controlled descent aligns with planetary protection protocols to preserve extraterrestrial environments for future study. The crucifix frog, found in arid regions of Australia, secretes a viscous, adhesive substance from its skin when disturbed. This exudate resembles biological glue and may function to deter predators or trap small insects. The frog derives its name from the distinctive cross-like pattern on its dorsal surface. In physics, the term jiffy refers to a precise unit of time. It is commonly defined as 1/100th of a second in computing contexts. In theoretical physics, it can also describe the time light takes to travel 1 centimeter in a vacuum, approximately 33 picoseconds. Finland's education system is notable for its minimal reliance on standardized testing. Formal examinations are generally postponed until upper secondary school, around age 16. Despite this, Finland consistently ranks highly in international assessments such as PISA, attributed to its emphasis on equity, teacher autonomy, and comprehensive early childhood education. The platypus uses electroreception to locate prey underwater. Electroreceptors concentrated in its bill detect electrical fields produced by muscle contractions in small aquatic animals. This ability enables the platypus to hunt effectively while keeping its eyes, ears, and nostrils closed during submersion. Bacteria can exchange genetic material through horizontal gene transfer, a non-reproductive mechanism involving transformation, transduction, or conjugation. This process allows bacteria to rapidly acquire traits such as antibiotic resistance, often across species boundaries, significantly influencing microbial evolution and public health outcomes. The red-lipped batfish, native to the Galapagos Islands, is adapted for benthic locomotion. Instead of swimming efficiently, it uses modified pectoral and pelvic fins to walk along the ocean floor. Its vivid lip coloration is thought to play a role in mating or species recognition. So, from hallucinogenic honey harvested off cliffs to snails with left-handed shells, we've officially crossed into the realm of truth is stranger than fiction. Now the real question is, which one of these facts messed with your brain the most? Drop it in the comments. I'm dying to know. And if you made it this far, you're one of the curious ones, the I need to know more kind of people. And I like that. So hit subscribe, because trust me, what I've got coming next makes this look normal.